Rupert Murdoch's British newspaper The Times came for New York mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani this week, and they failed in a level of truly epic proportions. Now, this story truly is bizarre, so hold with me. The right wing British newspaper of record ran a story on Tuesday about how former New York Mayor Bill de Blasio thinks Mamdani's numbers don't add up. They quoted the ex mayor saying, "In my view, the maths doesn't hold up under scrutiny, and the political hurdles are substantial. This would be a big deal, because de Blasio has supported Mamdani's campaign. There's just one very, very small problem." Totally untrue. Blasio took to Twitter to say this: "I want to be 100% clear. The story in the Times of London is entirely false and fabricated. It was just brought to my attention and I'm appalled. I never spoke to that reporter and never said those things. Those quotes aren't mine and they don't reflect my views." In a statement, News UK said it had apologised to Bill de Blasio and removed the article immediately. It said, "Our reporter had been misled by an individual falsely claiming to be the former New York mayor." US website Semaphore, which reported on the story, reached out to a Gmail address believed to be the one used by the Times. Semaphore got a response from the address which said, "You are correct. It was me, the real Bill de Blasio." Then correspondence dried up. Semaphore said that the Times' drive for anti-Mamdani stories comes from its US content director Marky Colkin. He used to work at the New York Post, a right-wing tabloid, and the Free Press, another right-wing publication. Dahlia, this is a pretty gigantic failure, right? For the paper of record? Supposed paper of record?
I mean, first of all, it's like the most New York thing I've ever heard of like some guy just being like, some random dude just being like, "Oh, the Times just want to know my opinion on this mayoral election. Like, I'm just going to give it." I mean, it's very, and I do appreciate that about this story. I also think it was unfair that the Times said, this was a hoax, as if like he got in touch pretending to be Bill de Blasio, when it's like, no, you had the wrong email and you didn't check that you had the right email. And the guy replied and you printed that without fact checking. So really, this is on you, this is not on the guy. But I think for me, what it shows is that the right wing press, when it comes to delegitimizing progressive popular candidates, they are like a dog with a bone. Like, they will do like that. Whoever wrote that paper, whatever reporter wrote that article, would have been given a directive by their editor: find something from get Bill de Blasio to say something on record that is negative about Zoran Mamdani, because they know, Bill de Blasio was mayor of New York. The fact that he endorsed Zoran Mamdani was very key in Zoran's campaign. And, if they can find a way to drive a wedge between the kind of Bill de Blasio, people who have fond memories of Bill de Blasio, and people who want to vote Zoran Mamdani, if they can drive a wedge in that kind of coalition, then that could, be a knock for Mamdani's chances. Although, of course, time is running out for them. But they are so desperate to undermine, to throw all these resources at undermining an organically popular local progressive politician, that it's like all standards just kind of go out of the window. And I can imagine that reporter was just doing absolutely anything he could. And the minute he got a nugget of something that could fulfill the headline that they wanted to write from the beginning, they just took it and ran with it. And that's not journalism, because journalism, you're supposed to be going into the field with an open mind and actually gathering information and seeing what the lay of the land is. You're not supposed to be constructing narratives and then just trying to cherry pick evidence to find to fulfill that narrative. And whilst this is a really egregious example of journalistic malpractice, I would say that it is the extreme end of a spectrum that actually exists across a lot of our right-wing media, which is that they decide what the narrative is that they want to perpetuate, and they go out looking for the evidence to fulfill it, which is bad journalism. And it's not journalism to begin with, because it's not entering things with a real curiosity. It's going into things with an agenda and with a narrative and a story that you are trying to construct that conveniently always goes against people who want to form an economy or a politics that is more democratic, and that takes a little bit of power away from the kind of people who own those newspapers. And they see their job as storytelling and propagandistic rather than as actually trying to find out what the real facts are on the ground. So it's obviously embarrassing. It's an obvious example of malpractice, of a very humiliating mistake for what's supposed to be a reputable newspaper. But what I would say is it's actually just an extreme version of a practice that the right wing press use on a daily basis, which is they have the story first and then they go looking for things to pad that narrative out.
I think I might email the Times tomorrow and say I'm a Nigerian prince with $20,000 to put into their bank account. I'll see what response I get.